So Speedsters, The Flash Season 6 starts off with solid groundwork for the season ahead for many different reasons. You can instantly tell through this first episode that we have a new showrunner, and if you didn't know already, you may have felt that it already just had a little bit of a different approach for the better. And knowing already what we do going into this season with the many differences that Eric Wallace wants to bring to Season 6, I'm only more excited to find out how this season will continue to impress beyond this decent premiere episode. But I've said this before, I feel like it's going to be a really hard season to not sell its greatness. There's so many opportunities, like a recipe for greatness for this season ahead, not just Crisis on Infinite Earths, but everything else that Eric Wallace has teased, so I think we're all in for a good ride. So I feel out of the many pillars that hold up a foundation of a season, The Flash has already set up many in his first episode, whether that's the introduction of Dr. Ramsey Russo as Bloodwork, as we all know, and his fascinating beginning and ties to Team Flash, in which it seems like from his story in this episode, we're going to get a villain that will likely be a lot more complicated than what we've previously seen for a while, rather than just being evil for evil's sake. Now, of course, I'm not ruling every previous villain off like that, and there was depth to them to some degree, but, you know, this, compared to those villains, makes those villains feel, at least some of them, like they were villains for villainous sake. Rather, with Ramsey, aka Bloodwork, the specific motivation for his character is both emotional and understandable, even though this will for sure not really end well for him by episode 8. Now, we've also got so many other teases and information to break down in this episode review and breakdown, so before we get into all of that, everyone, if you go on to enjoy this video, do me a favor and hit that like button. It only takes a second of your time. And of course, by the end of this video, leave me all of your thoughts on this premiere episode. But other than that, you can just stay up to date with every Flash video from me and anything else to do with anything else that I cover by subscribing. But let's get into this episode. So at the very beginning of the episode, we were teased with the scene that many of us have been waiting for, and where we've seen from the trailers that the Monitor appears to Barry and Iris. Now, this beginning moment with the system-wide power surge coming from the time vault that ruins the little chip with Nora's video on it already sets up excitement for the viewers for what we inevitably is going to be even more bad news for Barry and Iris, which, you know, I think is really sad and almost hard to watch at times in the episode just because of how much grieving they're going through after the loss of Nora at the end of last season. Now, this was mostly displayed through Iris this episode, and I have to say I thought Candice Patton did a really good job in showing her struggle, in which we saw examples through like her wanting to save the leather jacket from the garbage yard that she once wore in the Run Iris Run episode, and we know that their version of Nora later wears when she becomes XS. Or whether it was moments where we just saw her looking at that newspaper article about the Flash and XS defeat Cicada. All throughout the episode, you just really do feel for the Flash family. So as we've all heard about ever since Comic-Con, that this season would be picking up 10 seconds later, even though literally 10 seconds later it jumped to 4 months later, with something else that we expected, which was Godspeed. Now, we knew that we'd be seeing Godspeed this episode, but did we really see him? No, not really. So as we punched into the new feel for season 6, picking up with Cisco monitoring Godspeed running around Central City, who's clocking in at around 751 miles per hour, if I remember correctly. We heard him discuss how he's from the future and essentially a fake speedster, but the catch here is that after Barry bests Godspeed and slaps on the whole metacuffs, they did something that I both expected at the same time as didn't expect. Like, this was very interesting. Now, what I mean there is, from what I've been following from behind the scenes, and you guys too at the same time I'm guessing, is that we knew Godspeed would be used in this episode. But yet again, I felt, just like many others, that the fans would yet again kind of feel underwhelmed by a one-off episode featuring Godspeed, to the extent of where it felt as though maybe they're just using him as a, hey guys, look, it's Godspeed, see, we did him. And the thing is, they kind of did that, as he was only in the episode for around 2 minutes. However, what I didn't expect is that in this moment, that 100% set something up. Because as it turns out, that this was the 4th Godspeed that the Flash has caught this summer, with no sign of the actual August Heart. So yet again, just like the previous 3, this Godspeed can't communicate other than sounding like a screeching, weird, demonic kind of weird noise coming out yeah, that was just weird. So insert your theories here. I mean, I've already seen wild, interesting ones that these are like the anti-Monitor spies or like shadow freaking demons coming in and just testing the Flash, or whether it's like a future villain testing the Flash for whatever other reason. Ultimately, we don't really know for sure, but they've put a stopper in it for now. So all I can say is watch this space, because this has to be picked up at a later point. We also learned at a Team Flash barbecue that Team Flash have been working on this kind of mental augmentation chamber, which allows Team Flash to essentially tap into the Speed Force in order to boost Barry's cognitive abilities, which will also allow him to see every possible outcome to a scenario at the same time. So essentially, speed thinking. And did anyone else in this moment just think of Clifford DeVoe, aka the Thinker, because that's essentially what he boasted he could do, you know, see every possible outcome to every scenario. That's why he was kind of seemingly unstoppable. And now, like, if, you know, I don't know, it's just like, is Barry gonna kind of be like a speedster thinker now? Even though the Mac, which they're calling it for short, was used to contain the main threat of the episode towards the end, I wonder if they'll actually use this after Chester on the subatomic level has balanced out, or whatever Cisco said. I mean, I think there's a good chance they will use it for one excuse or another, with some troubling threat in several episodes' time. So in this episode, guys, of course, we were introduced to the big bad, or at least Big Bad A, because we're getting two this season, to Ramsey Russo, aka Bloodwork. I felt like the show did more than enough of a good job in setting up his beginning story this episode, whether that's showing the human side of him instead of just jumping into all guns blazing villainous, and then after his mother's funeral, in which he explained to Caitlin that after meeting her for a coffee, that she gave up her fight with cancer, even calling her a coward, and he is absolutely determined to not let this happen to other people. As we're watching things unfold in the episode with Ramsey, we're more or less immediately grasping the gravity of the situation that Ramsey is going to put himself in this season, as soon as he said to Caitlin about how he has this groundbreaking research in where his simulations, he has implemented dark matter for curing a form of cancer that his mother passed away from. I mean, Caitlin refuses to give him this dark matter to put his tests to reality. Even though as impressive and potentially a cure this is, it would also potentially have the side effect of making whoever is subjected to it a metahuman. Now, of course, with the typical ignorance of a villain being obsessed only about the end goal, he completely disregards that possibility, as later on we see him get one of those guns from a guy I feel like we saw last season. I mean, I could be wrong, but do you guys remember that episode where Barry and Ralph went undercover and there was all that kind of underground metahuman trafficking, weapony kind of thing? Yeah, that guy with the long hair, I just felt like I saw him in that episode. With, of course, anyway, this dark matter being held within the gun, which inevitably led us to see, after the camera glosses over some medical documents that show the HLH markers, Ramsey, after stating, "I will never accept death," proceeds to bring his simulations into life and injects himself, and the markers drop down. But of course, he becomes Bloodwork, with his like whole arm just being engulfed in this blood like CGI, and even like casting it out into the camera and just ending his scenes for the episode. But I just am really looking forward to seeing where he goes from here on out. Just bottom line intrigued to see how his little grudge against heroes is explored in Central City. Like, what exactly is it that he has against them? I mean, of course, we understand his obsession in preventing needless death from horrible illnesses such as cancer, but as for why he's going to turn against Team Flash is going to be a very interesting story to watch unfold throughout the course of his 8 episodes. I'm also pretty excited for Caitlin this season, and that's just because, I mean, I've known ever since Eric Wallace said that they will be exploring more of her this season with her humanity, and that we'd be seeing more of just her in general in her Killer Frost persona, with Caitlin being packed away, but I feel like I'm more excited after seeing it happen on screen than what I was before. Killer Frost has always viewed herself as this guardian angel, comes out when she is needed, protects Katie, and then just goes back into her cage. But with the encouragement of Ralph this episode, he brought Killer Frost out of, well, what he likes to call it as her snowtress of freaking solitude, which is an obvious kind of Superman reference to his fortress of solitude, with by the end of the episode Caitlin herself granting Killer Frost complete free reign to take over and actually have the opportunity to live her own life. So like, she's out of the shell now, she gets to spend hours or however long she wants living and experiencing the real world. But Ralph's got her back with the Book of Ralph Volume 2, which makes its appearance. Very quick to mention, we also get a quick tease from Ralph when he's first introduced in the episode, looking very heavily into the Sue Dearborn case, which is his own little love story, which I am very much so looking forward to seeing Ralph explore that side of himself, but you know, only a little tease for it for now. But back to the main threat of this episode, which was Chester, as we've seen from the trailers, with his little scientific device thingy-mabobby thing, which could literally create create black holes. Now I have to admit that I did wonder how the heck Iris didn't get sucked in by literally just standing her ground without holding on to anything in that garbage scene. And I'm not a scientist, but with all of the things that black holes eat up, I'm guessing she has some kind of future kind of magnetic locking boots that just, I don't know, like I'm not a scientist, but come on, black hole right there, you should be going in it. I really liked Iris kind of utilizing her reporter skills in this episode to kind of get more out of Chester to solve the problem, which they found out that Chester and the black holes were more or less one of the same thing. Even though we obviously haven't sprung into her full reporter mode yet with her paper, I could definitely tell that they were equipping journalistic Iris from the beginning episode. And so Barry did enter that black hole, and as he explained himself, to essentially carry Chester's consciousness out of there and return it to the Mac where he was chilling, which was a really cool scene. It was paired with the very unexpected Flash Gordon theme, which I felt fitted perfectly in this moment. It was also a nice touch for the ending as well, for Barry managing to get Iris's jacket out of the black hole void. But this is where, as I mentioned at the beginning, the Monitor appears. As if things couldn't get more stressful for Barry and Iris after the loss of Nora. We hear the Monitor after saying that the Flash's determination is boundless and it's one of his greatest qualities, that he will indeed go missing in Crisis on December 10th, 2019, making the ultimate sacrifice. And in order for billions to survive this coming crisis, the Flash must die. And as if the season wasn't interesting enough with this first episode, it's only going to get more compelling with the stakes being raised now like 1,000-fold. Now, as for the promo for next week's episode, we see that Barry wants to go to the day after he is supposed to disappear in Crisis, which is, as I've said before when we got teased with this, is a concept that I cannot absolutely wait for. Like, you know, Barry traveling to the day after Crisis, are we actually going to see that next episode? That's very exciting if you ask me. In this promo, on top of that, we also have seen some already teased scenes of him visiting Jay Garrick to get another look at Crisis on Infinite Earths with billions of possibilities and deaths. And I believe in these visions we actually get a little glimpse at that, as I think we even see the elongated man being vaporized. Essentially this could just be part of all the Crisis on Infinite Earths possibilities, where he witnesses members of Team Flash being evaporated or blasted or God knows what in that crossover. Concluding thoughts on The Flash Season 6 Episode 1, very solid episode. I felt like it set up many things, exciting things to come, and as I've echoed many times before this, even before seeing the episode, I think that we've got a lot to look forward to. So as usual guys, I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on my thoughts, let me know your theories on whether it's the Godspeed thing and anything else. But other than that, if you like this video, do go on to leave a like on it. If you are, especially at this point in the video, if you want to talk about The Flash with me personally, you can join my Discord server. The link to that will be in the top pinned comment in the comment section down below. But that is everything I've got to say, so thank you so much for watching guys. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you speedsters in the next video. Goodbye.